This is a sine wave, and when you combine a bunch of them, they can make any image, any sound, and any motion. So can I make a video game that doesn't have a single image file or MP3, no assets, but generates them all in real time using just sine waves? For this project, I'm going to code tools, write a custom audio engine, and over-engineer pretty much everything to make the art, fonts, sound effects, music, and gameplay using sine. Because sine waves are underrated, and I want to honor them to the fullest degree. Alright, to make this game with sine waves, we'll need to create a few things. We need a new way to draw all the graphics and animations, including the fonts and the interface. We need to generate all the sound effects and music, and then maybe we could package it all in an absurd way? I don't know. So yeah, to understand why sine waves are powerful, let's start with sound real quick, since it's simple enough. This is what a single sine wave sounds like. Yeah, just one perfect, smooth tone. It can be played faster, slower, louder, and quieter, but something cool happens when we add a bunch of them together. If we align the sine waves just right, we get a sawtooth wave. Neat. Or if you combine only half of them, we end up with a square wave. Or if you combine them in this way, you get a triangle wave. Turns out, you could create literally any waveform just by combining sine waves. We'll use this and more techniques to make the sound effects and music in this experiment. But a similar idea can be used in 2 dimensions. If we control how high up or down this dot is by fixing it to a sine wave, then we control how far left and right it is by fixing it to a copy of the sine wave, then as long as we offset one side by a quarter turn, the dot goes in a perfect circle. Just like before, we can add in a higher frequency sine, and in this case it makes like a cloud or some loops. But what's mind-blowing is, if we combine the right set of these sine waves, we can create a square, or a triangle, or a duck. You could make any shape with just basically one set of sine waves. One common way to picture the same thing is by connecting a chain of rotating circles together. Higher pitched sine waves spin faster, and louder sine waves are larger. When you trace the path that the last circle makes, we get our desired shape. It's approximately magic, but whether we're combining waves to create sound or combining circles to create shapes, in the end, we're just adding different frequencies of sine waves together. And I know this idea as the Fourier transform, or using a Fourier series, because Joseph Fourier believed in the power of sine, as do I. Okay. What's the goal of the game that we're making about sine waves? You wave signs? Sine waivers? Savor wines? Well, yes, we'll be waving signs, sort of. But to make this game, we first need to make the universe, of course. I can create a planet by just combining like a low frequency, high amplitude circle with smaller high frequency bumps, which I can randomize. If we reduce the high frequencies each time, now we have a cool depth effect. I'll get to grass and wind physics in a bit, but yeah, circles are boring. To make more complicated, more recognizable shapes, like the duck from earlier, I really have to be able to draw the shape and then convert it to all the right sine wave frequencies. I can't just guess. So I built a simple tool. On the left side, I can draw any shape I want, and behind the scenes, it just transforms it into the frequency domain using a Fourier transform. So it becomes a bunch of sine waves. I wrote a slow version of the Fourier transform, but that's totally fine for this use case. It's only used for creating the assets, not actually displaying them in the final game. To display all the frequencies as a shape again on the right, it just has to combine all the sine waves again. And that's basically how my game will render out the shapes, never storing the original drawing, just sine waves. The absurdity and effort that goes into all of this makes me need to answer the question, are there any practical reasons to use Fourier transforms in a game like this? Well, first of all, I was surprised. This tool is definitely not as intuitive to use as I would have thought. Because we're drawing it back out more detailed and smooth than the original input shape is, sometimes a high frequency artifact will ripple through the whole output, making it look extra wiggly. Usually I could nudge the points around to smooth things out, and in some cases I might also want to just remove all the tiny, less important sine waves altogether, and that's what this slider is for. If I slide it all the way down, it renders out just one pair of sine waves, a good old circle. And if I keep sliding it up, it adds more and more frequencies until it's, maximum detail. And that is a form of compression. I can remove all the unimportant frequencies and end up with a similar looking shape, which saves data and processing power. That's a huge reason to use Fourier transforms. The video you're watching right now, is compressed using variations of this algorithm called asymmetric discrete sine transform and discrete cosine transform. MP3s, JPEGs, and MP4s use these algorithms, and it helps compress stuff to a smaller file size without losing too much quality. This is what causes that bubbly sound of a super compressed MP3 audio file. It's the beeps of the sine waves blipping in and out real quickly. This is also why if you zoom into a super compressed deep fried video or JPEG, you can see little ripple patterns. You're seeing the sine waves that make up the image. I'll play around with JPEG compression as a real-time effect in the game later. So because of sine compression, the duck is around half the file size of an SVG file, mostly because an SVG file includes curve information, whereas sine waves are naturally curvy, and a PNG file is even bigger. So at the end of this project, I want to see how much smaller this game is thanks to sine waves. By the way, I added a way to morph between the shapes by fading between the frequencies that make up each keyframe. For example, here I have a duck, a crow, and a goose. So in between, I guess we have a doe and a cruise, and perhaps a goose circle. Anyway, I'll take the crow as our main character and give it a goofy little walk cycle. So we've got our planet made out of sine waves, and we've got our crow, a mere combination of harmonics. And by changing the starting rotation of all the harmonics, we can rotate the crow to stand on the planet and walk around. I call it crotation. Okay, now let's give the crow the ability to fly. So I gave it an airplane. The airplane is made out of 32 animated harmonics, a propeller that I created by hand so I can make it spin convincingly, and 2 circles for the landing wheels. Making the propeller by hand was not at all intuitive to me for some reason. Like, it's weird that the harmonic frequency of 2 gives 3 propeller blades, but you can't easily make 2 blades, and being slightly off anywhere gives totally wrong results. All I'm saying is I'm glad that I made the drawing tool for more complicated shapes. Finally, here's where I'm going with the game idea. So you're a crow, and your business is sine waving, right? So you get tasks from your neighbors about what messages they want you to fly high in the sky. So you collect letters to form their message and fly it over the people below, because no business can run without signs. Clearly, we need a way to display text in the game, so we need to encode a font as sine waves. Dare I call it sign language? I think cursive is a great starting point, so I used my drawing tool to design 26 letters. Then I have them connect together between words and cursive. It's not super easy to read, I admit, but it's really cool that you could animate the harmonics to make the text wiggle. And we can have it draw in and out by fading the harmonics slowly. Try doing that with your Times New Romans or your Comic Sanses. And that's not enough for me, so I'm gonna make another font. Bubble letters, and they're much more legible. Now we can see what NPCs have to say. Once you're assigned a task, it'll show up in your spiral notebook, the only kind of notebook featuring a sine wave, of course. Then you collect letters by finding them in the sky, in balloons. I just need to add a banner still. But there are 2 ways that I'm thinking to arrange the balloons in space. The first way is by placing them in different rings. If the distance between rings is the same as the distance between balloons on the rings, then they all appear equally spaced apart, which is good. This is how strongholds are positioned in Minecraft. I guess it's because it's so easy to calculate roughly how close the nearest stronghold is at any location. just which ring are you in and which section are you in. One time I took this concept to the extreme when I designed the island generator for another game I'm working on. It can create islands anywhere, indefinitely, deterministically, because it's just rings. The second way to place balloons is by placing them in a spiral. This is a parabolic spiral. If you separate the items on it by just the right value, you get Vogel's spiral. A spiral you probably recognize from seeds and petals and leaves. It's the golden angle, calculated with this. Wait, we can calculate it with sine instead. Okay, we can use the ring system for the balloons since it's speedy, and then we'll use the spiral system for planet placement. That's right, you can fly from one planet to the next in a plane. Game logic, yeah! For the grass, I distribute it across the surface of the planet, and they're little sine waves, and they blow in the wind. The wind simulation is basically like a bunch of small connected springs. And just like how gravitational attraction makes a sort of sinusoidal motion, spring attraction makes it too. So I just had to include it. Also, I can just swap it out with water waves, and really it's the exact same thing. Now, of course, we can't have a game with sines without adding sines. Okay, one last thing before I create sounds and music. I want a mini-map. So I drew some plans for a heads-up display for the plane. It's got an altimeter to show how far up from the ground you are, a speedometer, and a map. Maybe it's an analogy for amplitude, frequency, and offset of a sine wave. It's kind of poetic. The speedometer was easy. I just had to draw the dial hand with harmonics, and the rest is pretty straightforward. For the altimeter and map, I want it to feel like a 3D spinning dial. I can map it using a simple sine curve, and it looks decent, but I want it to be more dramatic. I was thinking something more along the lines of that super cool hyperbolic art that MC Escher made. I was MC Escher once, by the way.
I'm Martin Cornelius Escher.
So yeah, Escher's hyperbolic drawings inspired me to use hyperbolic tangent to get a similarly infinitely squished effect. And since hyperbolic tangent is just like tangent rotated in the complex plane, don't worry about that, and tangent is just sine over cosine, and cosine is just shifted sine, yeah, we're still honoring sine, right? Anyway, this background is also just part of a sine wave. Simple stuff. Now, we just need to make sound effects and music with sine waves. The pitter-patter of walking around, jumping, landing, entering the plane, the engine sound, popping balloons, and stuff. Theoretically, I could just find or record these sounds, use a Fourier transform to convert it to sine waves, and then play it back in the game. But that's almost the exact same as just including an MP3 in the files, which would defeat the point. Instead, we will be synthesizing the sounds from scratch. This is how the architecture works for this part. I'll be using audio worklets in the browser. They're little programs that can process audio. For a simple sine wave, I can have parameters for its volume and its pitch, which we can change over time. Layered on top of that is some code that can manage these parameters, so we can change its pitch based on a note on the piano or something. And then finally, I have an audio manager, which simplifies all that down to some easy-to-use functions called beep or something. Let's start with the sound effect for popping a balloon. For this one, let's get some reference material. It's a really short sound, like 0.05 seconds. It looks like a sine wave, like this, but it's got this kind of shape to it, where it ramps up quickly, then decreases in volume. I'll control this with an ADSR envelope. That's attack, decay, sustain, and release. ADSR. That terminology makes a little bit more sense with music instruments, but that's okay, I'm just keeping the convention here. Another thing to notice is that the sine wave speeds up during the pop sound, and that's because the pitch is increasing over time, so I've added pitch shifting. In this case, the pop sound over doubled in frequency, meaning the note went up a whole octave on the scale. It seemed to go up 14.5 notes specifically. That sounds so close now, but it's missing something really subtle, but important. Do you see how the sine wave gets all jagged at the start? Let me introduce you to sine's greatest weakness, its archenemy, if it had one: random noise. If we look at the frequency spectrogram, you'll see the main sine wave going up in pitch, but at the start there's every sine wave being active. This is basically white noise. Sine waves are one single pure tone that repeats perfectly. And white noise, on the other hand, has no tone. It's all frequencies happening at random, never repeating. And that's kind of why I think of them as cosmic opposites. But I refuse to admit defeat to random noise. We conquered it last video, and by golly, I'll do it again today. So here is how I approximate a noise generator using just 3 sine waves. It's simple. We do frequency modulation, FM synthesis. You know, the stuff that made iconic bass lines. It's the hallmark of Sega Genesis instruments. And it's hiding pretty much everywhere in sound design. By modulating the pitch of one sine using another, we can introduce all sorts of harmonics with very little effort. And by modulating the modulation, oh yeah, now we could add so much complexity that it gets close to random noise. So yeah, now I can add 7 milliseconds of that to the pop sound. Yeah, that sounds better. But for real though, I'm going to use this method to add texture in all sorts of sounds, like the walking sounds. I can add more layers to the noise, sending some to the left speaker and some to the right speaker. Then we have jumping and landing. For the door sound, I wanted to make that squeak of the hinge using a saw wave, which, you know, is made of sine waves. And I added the click sound with a square wave with FM applied. When the plane rolls on the ground, I went for some wide, low-frequency noise. It's hard to do low-frequency noise with FM, so it'll definitely sound a bit bubbly. And of course, we have our engine sound. It's a short saw wave and noise sound, played like 20 times a second. The pitch alternates between the 2 notes and is linked to the plane's speed. Collecting a letter plays a jingle on a triangle wave. Collecting a second one transposes it up a note, and so on. And we can't forget the NPCs. They need a voice, right? I want each character to have a unique waveform that represents it, but like literally represents it. Yeah, I was thinking the sine wave frequencies that are used to generate the shape of the character can be the exact same sine wave frequencies that make up its voice. I thought that was cool. I asked my Patreon members to give me NPC ideas. So we've got a ghost pig who likes pink mushrooms, a fat cat who prefers a wet food, a gorilla with a top hat, and we even have a real pie. Yeah, my patrons submitted random stuff I'd never have come up with myself, and I love them for it. By the way, you should join. Okay, you ready to program some music? We can make a kick drum by really quickly pitching a waveform down and adding a little impact noise at the start. A snare drum has a bit of a tonal sound to it and a lot of noise. It uses 5 whole audio threads. How greedy. Hi-hats are just noise. And together we have drums. Nice. Since we can form saw waves with sines, that means we can make a really nice, really vintage synthesizer sound called the super saw. It's multiple saw waves, but each one is slightly detuned, so they create a phasing sound. By fading out the higher frequency sine waves, we can create a low pass, or a pluck sound. I'll use this as the bass sound. And finally, I'll make a sort of fake wind instrument using a triangle wave layered with a little bit of noise for the air blowing. We can modulate the pitch with the low frequency sine wave to add vibrato as a note is held down. Okay, now we just add it together and we have background music with randomized loops for variation. I would love to do so much more with this. This is totally up my alley, but maybe later I could revive my music program from 2015 to add all these features to it. I mean, there are certainly easier ways to make music, of course, but just like there are easier ways to make art or using a font. But, doing things in weird ways is how I ended up making my favorite project, so I'll never regret challenging myself. All right, I have a couple more surprises left to code, and then I'll send it off to some friends to see what they think of my new game, all made using sine waves. I'm here with my friend SomeRanDev again.
Hello!
And I'm here with LeahStray.
Hi, I'm LeahStray.
I have a new game to show you.
I love games.
Welcome to Sine.
By Zanzlands.
That's me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, this is cute.
So this game is a game without any assets. It is just made with sine waves. All the graphics, all the audio, the music that you hear.
Okay.
So that's what makes this game unique.
The music. Okay, I'm here. I'm a crow. I'm a sine crow.
Oh my god, I'm a little crow. Oh my goodness. See duck for the key. We're off to get the key.
Oh!
There it
Press
is.
E to talk to duck.
Congratulations, my dear crow. You passed flight training. You mastered the alphabet. And you're ready to start your new business. I love that. Crow sign!
To celebrate, I will sponsor free signs for everyone today. My treat. And for your first quest, fly a sign for me that says party.
Hereby gift you the key to your plane. Godspeed, crow sign.
You're so good at reading cursive.
I love the way the text goes from like a little, just a little tiny scribble to coherent text. I mean, as coherent as cursive could be. Oh yeah, look at the E. It turns into, it goes from a moon to an E. All right, I'm getting in the plane. Even though I'm a crow, I feel like I should be able to fly without a plane, but...
Let's hop into this plane. I'm all of a sudden scared. Oh my god, I don't want to run over duck. Oh, it's just truly go. It's just trust the system and go. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my god.
Yo! The way it tilts is so sick.
Yeah, you're in gravity.
Oh, okay. We need... Oh, no, I already messed up. I need to make... What was it? Party?
There's no P. You've deleted. Oh wow. Okay. I'm gonna avoid that bad boy.
Whoa. Is that intentional? Is there creepypasta in this game? What is that?
All right.
Okay. A.
Woo, you did it.
I know. Look at how cute it is. I don't know what fly over three others means. There's more than duck?
There is more than duck.
There's more than duck. Okay.
Yeah, so you can go from planet to planet. It captures your gravity.
Whoa. Yo! Nettie the second. Oh, what a warm
What a warm
surprise.
surprise.
A certified aerial banner pilot. May my free banner inspire togetherness. Meet all the... Alright, I did it. I met one of the neighbors.
Go meet them.
A sign maker always carries a dictionary around. One time, I misplaced my dictionary. I was at a loss for words. Alright, so we're getting in the plane.
Alright.
You do have another task to complete once you find a couple more people.
Oh, I just noticed the mini-map. Okay, so there's another thing up here. Oh, true. Your sign... Oh, that's so cool! Wait, that's... You put way too much work into this. There's mechanics for people seeing your signs. Well, I gotta talk to them now.
Kyber, I'm so sorry. So sorry to interrupt. Oh my gosh. You have a free sign? I must be dreaming still. Well then.
Let my sign say, wet food, please. But if you don't mind, I'm continuing my map.
That is so Ferb. Enter photo Ferb here.
Oh yeah, that is so firm.
Another cat. They're all outdoor critters you would see in your local neighborhood.
I, Magi, am in the business of eating fishies.
Fishies for Magi!
What do you say? Do we have a deal? What do I get? This is only fishy business here. That's...
Hey.
It's only a fishy business here. Okay.
Gary.
Gary. Just chilling. Just How convenient. Oh. I thought we were done with that. I thought... I'm currently making a sign, so I feel like that's not something I should dance with at the moment. I'm really busy. Woo!
It's a gorilla with a top hat. Please make my sign say SOKATOA.
It's a mnemonic device to remember trigonometry.
Sine is the opposite over hypotenuse.
Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse.
And then I know this. Tan is the other two.
It sure is.
It's so true. Le SOKATOA.
Le SOKATOA. It's educational. We're learning. Who is this?
PP33.
It's like a ghost.
Oh my god. Sad story. Yeah, what happened to you, PP? Me was a good pig and now me a ghost. But lived good life full of happy. For me love pink mushrooms. Oh my god, they're everywhere. How me die? How me die?
You think pink mushrooms poison me? No, not. Me test this many times in life. Many, many times.
This is also so Ferb.
Picture of Ferb.
It is green mushrooms that are deadly. Me test this. What? Okay.
PP, please share a final message so me ascend to heavens. Pink mushrooms.
Pink mushrooms.
Pink mushrooms.
Oh, pink mushrooms.
You know what? Let's do it. Pink mushrooms.
At this point, you might be wondering why it's so repetitive. Well, let me introduce to you the gameplay loop. I intentionally designed this game to feel like a sine wave. You meet a character, get a task, make their sign, fly it around, and then meet the next character, over and over again. While most games have players making decisions or have a way to fail or something, Crosine's gameplay loop only moves in one direction, inspired by a sine wave.
The peak is definitely talking to the NPC.
Oh my god, I can't look.
Oh my god, this poor pig. Alright, hey, I spread the word. What's up?
Are you okay, PP? Thank you so much. Cosine, you good like pink mushroom. Me set free. Whee!
Goodbye.
Whee!
Oh no.
I'm not gonna cry.
Have I spoken to this cat? It's moving. Look at that animation. Look at it go. It's like modern art.
Look at those sine waves go.
I will say Crystal's pace is pretty much verbs.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I know that. I know the reference. Hello, everyone. Oh my god.
Let's go meet Lindsay here.
Lindsay's good.
Hi, Lindsay.
I promise to make you some bibimbap.
Beep-beep-beep-bim-bap.
Bibimbap?
Bibimbap.
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 Beep-bim-bap?
Bibimbap.
Oh, you look confused. I am confused. Okay. You've never heard? Rice covered in all the veggies you can imagine. With minced meat and more. All with a savory sauce. Bibimbap.
Bibimbap.
Oh my god.
Ah!
I'm gonna talk to Pi. I can't scream.
Ah! Oh, hey, I do that. Sorry. I'm just like so excited right now.
Can you fly a sign that says ah? Hey!
Lots of A's. Hey!
Hey!
Whoa, this one's like a really deep water one.
It is.
Yo, that is such a cool effect. It's a shark! Oh my god, I have a friend who loves sharks.
I'm underwater.
You are.
Can crows do that? Hi, Tyler.
Oh my god, hey Tyler! Whoa!
Make waves.
Make waves! Oh my god, I love this shark so much! Also, your plane is really cool. Thank you. Make a big wave on your way out. You freaking bet I will. Woo!
Oh boy. You did it! You completed the game.
Woo, what a day. Me and Duck at it again. Is it gonna be everyone except for PP?
Congratulations, you finished Crowside.
Hooray! I gotta say, there's a lot of gameplay for a game that just has a sine wave.
I wonder why it took me 7 months to make.
Are you able to make a binary that's super, super tiny because all the graphics are just math?
Yeah, I wanted to see like how much smaller the game would be. My fonts were roughly half the size of similar true type fonts. The way I did sprites also led to half the file size compared to SVG files, or like a seventh the size compared to PNG files, which I would normally use to make a 2D game. The sound effects are 37 times smaller than if I used MP3s instead, and that's mostly because of the NPC voice variations. Without those, it's like 6.5 times smaller. But the music? Generating it with sine waves saved over 500 times the space compared to using MP3 loops. Obviously, this is a silly comparison. Can sine waves suddenly solve AAA titles having 100 gigabyte releases? No, I wish it were that easy. But hey, at least Crowsine is about 11 times smaller because of it. 455 kilobytes.
Alright, let's fly into a wormhole, shall we? I'm really nervous.
Alright, yep, this is the wormhole in the center of the universe. Behold. And that's not video compression you're seeing, that's the in-game JPEG shader. Each group of pixels is first converted to sine waves using the DCT algorithm, then more and more sine waves are discarded the closer you are to the wormhole, even on the plane itself. The wormhole eats sine waves.
Oh my god. Okay.
When you fly through the wormhole, none of your progress is lost. No, you just go to a parallel universe where the balloons are reset. So if you somehow run out of letters, it's not the end.
It's actually the beginning.
It's a pretty smart game. It's a pretty smart game.
Now, to avoid any allegations that this game isn't made with enough sine waves, I've created a program that can convert any text to a set of sine wave signals. And if I record those sine waves again, it'll decode my message. I shall now send this chocolate bar from one end of the room to the other. It worked! Therefore, I can do this conversion with the game's code and say for sure the entire game is now made with just sine waves. But yeah, this is way slower than even the earliest dial-up internet modems or fax machines, so maybe I finally took this project too far. This is Zanzlan signing off. Subscribe to see my next video. And thanks to all my patrons!